All right, we are live again with the 5th episode of Comic Art Live. We weren't going to do tonight, but we found out that there was a special guest in town, actually with Mike Burkey, and we decided we were going to have the show this evening. Can't promise we're going to go a full hour, but we'll see how long it goes. But I do want to let you know that next week on the 30th, we will have Frank Giella, collector, on the show. So we're going to not keep that a mystery like we've had to do with this evening, but we thought we'd let you know in advance on that. And we will be taking the following week off because of the 4th of July holiday. And that's also going to be the next big signature auction from Heritage. So we'll have a lot to talk about following that auction that week. So Glenn, you want to kind of take us off today?
Sure. So the mystery guest that we have today reminded me of the single greatest story in comic art collecting that you guys have ever heard. It's an amazing story. It's an uncanny story. It's the kind of story that collectors dream of. I know you think I'm hyping this up right now, guys, but I'm telling you, when I tell you this story, you're going to be like, "Wow, that's the greatest story I ever heard." So it's the 1980s, and a collector, old time collector by the name of Brad Savage, goes into a local comic store in Manhattan, and he's there talking to the owner. He's like friends with the owner when like these two guys walk in with like a pile, looks like a pile of something. We're not sure what. They put it down, open up. The front page is the splash to Amazing Spider-Man #4, Steve Ditko, Sandman versus Spider-Man. That's on top. You go through the pages. It's like the whole issue of Spider-Man #4. It's his origin. It's battle pages with Sandman. But he kept going, and all of a sudden we've got the splash to Spider-Man #3 with Doc Ock, and that complete story. And he kept flipping, and we get to Spider-Man #2. You've got that great splash with the Vulture and Spider-Man. And finally, get down to the bottom of the pile. It's the complete issue to Spider-Man #1. Like the grail of all grails. This is like insane. So these guys have 4 issues of Steve Ditko Spider-Man, and they want to sell them. And they offer them to the owner of the store. And the owner of the store says, "How much do you want?" And the guys are like, $2,000 for everything. This is the mid-'80s. And the owner's like, well, he's not really, he does comic books. He's not really into, and Brad, like his mouth is on the floor. He's like, I have to buy these. So the guys want $2,000, and Brad doesn't have that much money on him, but the store owner is willing to lend him a little bit of money. So he's got like $700 now with help from the store owner. And he says, look, I'll give you $700 for just like the Spider-Man #1 issue. And they're like, no, we don't want to split them up. We can't do that. Brad's like, look, I have to buy these things. I can get the money together. I can get the money together maybe by tomorrow if you guys can meet me here tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, sure. But like, Brad is like sweating now because he thinks maybe they won't come back. There was like no way. He wanted to buy something right then and there, but there was no way they would split it up at that point. So Brad goes home. I guess he begs, borrows, steals, whatever he has to do to get the $2,000. And he comes back the next day. He's sure these guys aren't going to show up. Lo and behold, they're there. They show up, and they've got a stack. But they apologize immediately when they walk in the door, and they say, look, we don't have the Spider-Mans. We sold the Spider-Mans. A guy offered us $2,000 for just the Spider-Man 1 issue alone, and we sold him everything. And I'm sorry, we don't have those. But it's not a total loss. We have these other things. So Brad's like, what do you have? And opens it up. It's the complete X-Men 1 issue, the complete X-Men 2 issue, the complete X-Men 5 issue, 3 issues of X-Men. And so Brad says, yes, no problem, gives him $2,000, buys those 3 issues, and goes home a very happy man. I mean, I guess he could have been more happy with the Spider-Mans, but you know, just an incredible story. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And our mystery guest tonight actually has more to contribute to the story if he wants to about that involves him. And I don't know. Do we want to? You want to bring the mystery guest in, Mike? What do you think? Is he ready?
Don't be shy.
Oh, there he is. Bashara Malouf.
You'd think I'd have more sense than this, but no.
All right.
In the flesh. I'll subject myself to this. Yes. How are you guys? Wow, that's quite an introduction.
Well, yeah, you know, Bashara, like, I mean, as I recall, you.
And I am actually in disguise Brad Savage, and that's why he put the story together like this. So if you guys only knew Brad Savage, yeah.
But there's more to the story.
No pressure.
No pressure, no.
There's more to the story if you want to tell it.
Did I tell you the story before?
I just told the other part.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, I never ever knew. I heard the 1 and 3 and 4. I never heard of 2 being in that batch. I never
Yeah,
heard
that's
that.
new to me. 2 is new to me.
I never heard of 2 being.
Isn't that what you told me, Bashara? That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, I think it was 1. I believe it was 1, 3, and 4. I don't recall. I can't remember. It was number 2.
I always heard 2 was.
I take back everything I said about number 2.
2 has never been seen by
Yeah, I'm not sure about number 2.
collector eyes. And
2 and 5 are supposedly together, or were.
Well, 5, we know where that is.
ASM we're talking about.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I probably recall the story a long time ago. Brad, you know, one of the most infamous collectors of art and comics and Marilyn Monroe panties and dresses.
Wow.
So, pretty much, he's got. I think
What did those go for now?
by now, considering he's sold most of his art to get Marilyn Monroe dresses. But that's another story, you know, for a later time. Actually, when they walked in with the X-Men 1, the 1, the 5, the 2, he wound up getting X-Men 1 for $400, and the other stories for $200 each.
Oh, okay. Better.
Saving some money. Good old Brad.
Didn't have to pay the whole $2,000, huh?
Yeah, he saved money. Later on, he wound up buying other.
I'm glad he didn't get ripped off. That you know.
Yeah, he was very disappointed. Well, he was very disappointed, but that's a story for another time about how this all transpired and
Okay.
what could have
Fair
gone
enough.
down. So yeah, I've been in it long enough to hear and know a lot of these people, and to interact with them and to chase them for more information. And yeah. So I've been around a long time. That's what it actually boils down to. And you know, Glenn and Will and Burkey, you know, I was there buying stuff and enjoying the collectible, and I had a strange introduction to the comic book world. I'll give you a quick history. I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Beirut, Lebanon. And in Lebanon, being a French colony, as a young kid at 6, even at the age of 6, I started buying comic books in French and Arabic. So that was my introduction to the superhero world in Lebanon. When we moved here a few years later to America with my mom and my grandfather, I didn't speak the language, so the first thing I did was buy comics and watch TV. So comics was really instrumental in my love of the culture. And from there, it built up, and I collected, and I would take 3 buses at the age of 12 after, working in a paper route, and 3 buses to get to Stan's Joke Shop in Brockton, Massachusetts, and buy more books. So I was addicted. In college, I unfortunately had to sell my books, or at least most of them, to help pay for school, little here and little there. It helped out. And then I got the bug again, and when I was getting ready to graduate, I went to my first comic book show by buying one collection and saying, okay, I'm going to build up my collection one more time. So I bought this little collection. I moved some stuff. I bought some more. I'm like, okay, this is the way to build up my comics. And before I knew it, I was building it up and running into art accidentally at conventions. You know, this is in the mid 80s. And I would buy up a page here, a page there. My first Frazetta was $50 in a comic book collection. It was a Head and Shoulders shot. I'm like, okay. My first Kirby was $75. It was FF45, the half splash with Dragon Man, twice up art for $75. So I was buying up, you know, from 84, 85, 86. I'm like, wow, this is, you know, I'm like, this is nice. This is nice. But I still wasn't getting a big exposure. And the reason I mentioned the dealing part was because there was a famous collector in our industry called Martin Grime in Massachusetts. Marty, you probably
Oh yeah, I know Martin.
Marty was an artist for Marvel, and he was one of the earliest collectors of original art, strip art and superhero art. And he was selling me his comic books, and then invited me to come to his house in Dover, Massachusetts. And I walked into his house, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. The whole house was framed up in the kitchen, in the living room, in the stairs, in the basement. Everywhere was original comic art, strips and covers of superhero and Frazettas and Steranko and I mean, it was just mind-boggling. And I didn't recognize all these artists at that time because I was sort of new to the art portion of collecting. But so I would go there every week and buy little comics and ask them about these pages. And I'm like, what's this? And what's this? And what's this? So he, you know, and I knew to recognize, for instance, the thing that struck me the most, other than the Avengers, Buscema, I think it was the annual 2 cover with all the characters fighting each other.
Annual 3,
the annual,
the wedding.
Annual 2 was a face-off
I
cover.
think it was Avengers Buscema.
Oh, Avengers.
Avengers,
Yeah.
Yeah. The annual 2.
Right.
Hanging there because I love Avengers. And then when I walked into his living room the first time, he had Flash Gordon, Alex Raymond Sunday, the duel between, you know, Flash and Ming. And right next to it, he had the wedding, Dale marrying Flash Gordon. I mean, this is the kind of quality art that Martin.
Is that the Barry Allen Flash or the Wally Wood Flash?
Yeah, the Barry Allen, the 80s, later Barry. So this is the kind of art. The first piece I bought from him was a Steranko piece. I mean, you'd think I'd have like hundreds. I mean, I have 2. And the first piece of art I ever bought from Marty was a Steranko piece. You know, then so it was just, he really turned me on that that I could see art like that from the comics that I loved. You know, that as a 12-year-old I had taped to my walls. I had my favorite comics taped to my wallpaper all over my room. And I'm like, wow, I want some of these hanging in my house someday. And that the Martin Grime introduction just blew my mind. And I knew the future of my collecting is going to be artwork and comic art. And he had, of course, amazing, extraordinary stories about things that, you know, oh yeah, Bashara, I traded away Spidey 11 and 24, the covers. I'm like, what?
He's the one that had those?
You had Spidey 11 and 24? Oh yeah, I sent them off. I won't say where. You know.
Wait, was it 11 or 13? I thought it was
13 and 24.
I'm sorry.
11 came
13 and
from
24.
13 and 24.
I knew those.
No. 11 we know. Yeah.
Right. 13
No,
and 24.
13, I'm sorry. 13 and 24. I'm like, so his collection was legendary, and to walk into that house just changed my life as a collector. So that was
You took my first question for you. I was gonna suggest you discuss Martin Grime. But a follow up is why don't you tell some of the collecting audience out here how when he would sell stuff, what methodology he would go about selling? Because I bought one piece from him. I mean, I came a few years later, but I was still early enough that I dealt with him a couple times. But it's interesting.
Well, when he was selling me stuff, I didn't really care what the price was because I had no idea. So he would give me like these big prices. Later on, I'd find out they were big prices. But I didn't know any better. I didn't care. At that time, it just all looked cheap to me. And then later on when I discovered dealers, I'm like, oh, you're selling that for that? I'm like, that sounds cheap. I'll buy it. Or that sounds cheap. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I thought it was, but later on when Marty wanted to sell something, he would call you and, you'd have to like give an offer and then, he'd get another offer higher and he'd tell you that, oh, I got another offer that's higher. Do you want to go higher? And it would just be an ongoing. I mean, I don't know if that was your experience, but that was later on my experience and others.
When I got to him, he had a West Coast Avengers burn cover that I wanted. And he wouldn't, I mean, at least with me, he wouldn't tell me. I would say, do you have, examples of this, or this? He would say, yeah, I have something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. If I decide to sell it, I'll let you know. So I had mentioned burn. He goes, hey, I have a West Coast Avengers cover, told me the number. He goes, make an offer. He goes, if you're the top, he goes, I'm offered to several people. If you're one of the top 2 offers, you get to make another offer.
That's it.
And then, I'll let you know if you win. Now, I happened to win that time. But I thought it was the most interesting, it wasn't just a bidding. It was like a blind bidding situation. And then, if you're one of the select 2, you get to make another offer. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, people always wonder, remember those awesome collages? Collages that Heritage had. I keep saying, think about who he knew. Nobody but Martin Grime would have gotten Steve Ditko to draw the Blue Beetle and sign it next to a Frank Miller Daredevil, next to a Wrightson Swamp Thing, next to John Romita drawing Golden Age Daredevil. I mean, then remember the John Byrne Club? I mean, he got every artist in the industry drew for him.
Marty had such a relationship with even Ditko. He invited me, it was like 30 years ago, to go with him to Ditko's apartment with a few guys. I'm like, I thought nobody could get in there. He could get in there. I couldn't go that time, but
you.
He can go.
Right? He can go. You had something better to do?
No.
You didn't go?
I don't remember why. There was something going,
Oh my God.
But
you have to check your priorities.
Right. Yeah, he created Super Bunny, didn't he?
He created Super Bunny.
Yeah. I have his
Super Bunny. Yeah. No, Marty was an infamous collector on many levels. But yeah.
He was strange. Just real quick, I have one Martin Grime story. John Romita's very first Spider-Man Sunday strip had gotten stolen from him. He loaned it to some policeman's benevolent fund. He never got it back. Anyway, years later, in the early 2000s, Martin Grime calls me and says, yeah, a friend of mine has the first Sunday, but you're not getting it. I go, why? He goes, well, you have too much, and he doesn't like you, and he don't want to sell it to you. I go, well, okay. I mean, if he doesn't want to sell it, fine, but if it's available. But he kept calling me to tell me that I can't get it. And I go, well, that's just odd. I go, okay, I have the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth ones, but if I can't get the first one, I can't get the first one. It's okay,
So that's where you got that method of operating. You always call me and tell me I can't have it.
So that was. But I had a friendship relationship with Martin, but not so much. I don't even remember in Heritage years ago. I guess he was the consigner. They had all these buttons of comic characters, like all superheroes, but also like Popeye, Bugs Bunny, blah blah blah, and they all listed it as unknown artists. And Martin actually told me each one's like he says that Jack Kirby did the Captain America, Jack Kirby did this, and I had him give me a list of everybody because he goes, they came from me. I'm the one that created the buttons, and so I had him give me a list of, because I bought it from Heritage back in like 2000, in the early 2000s, And he categorized them all for me. I go, I'll appreciate it. And I had to give him a piece of art because he wouldn't do it just for nothing. And so I had him go through all of them and tell me who was the artist on each of these, because they were listed as unknown artists. It was like 60 button art, all like 3-4 little round circles with headshots of Marvel, DC, and cartoon characters and stuff. So that was my main talks with Martin through the years.
So listen, let's just nip this in the bud. It's a question, Jason D'Ambrosio. It's to Bashara. I read a thread on the All-Star Squadron 9 cover you recently posted about it being altered. Question to the group: do you encounter that often, or fakes, or how do you vet it?
Okay, since I'll go first on that. Yes, I didn't actually realize it was altered until Brian brought it to fore. Brian Peck brought it to my attention. Throughout the years, I mean, for myself, when I handle in my collection or as a dealer, like literally thousands of pieces. Every once in a while, I'm sure there are pieces that have been altered or they've gone to a restorer, or something has become, let's say, creative. You notice it every once in a while. I don't see it as happening that much, or maybe it's more often now, other than stats work or cleaning up. But I'm sure it happens. Fakes, thank goodness I have not seen personally any fakes, other than years back. I think San Diego, I forgot which piece,
the Planet Comics one,
which piece came in. Yeah,
Planet
but
Comics
they're usually so poorly done that an amateur, it may get by an amateur, but it's not going to get by somebody even with half a good eye in the collectible. And hopefully, that would be the worst thing of all if fakes start popping up. But things being altered, it happens every once in a while. I'm sure of it.
But wait, the All-Star Squadron 9, is that the one where the action lines around the characters were on a separate piece of vellum and somebody cut them back on the cover, right?
Yeah, it was the fire. It was
right
on the vellum. There was a fire.
Right,
not the characters themselves.
Correct.
But the fire. And
somebody just removed and put it on the cover.
Put them on the cover.
I mean, I call that altered, but I still call it 100% original cover.
Apparently, it's getting a lot of flack.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
still call it an original cover.
But if we know that happened, then it has to be. It has to be told.
I mean, in the past, I've had covers that had a vellum overlay where a little sign or something on it, and I cut it off and then I glued it on the cover. I mean, or something. It was on a vellum piece because I said I want them to be able to see both. I mean, in the past, I've done that. I don't think that's
but
altering if you're trying to get it to look like the original cover and you're not adding anything to it. If you're cutting something out to put it on it, I still think it's the original cover. Yeah, it's altered, but it's still the original cover. I mean,
I think the criticism is like,
overlay, I'm saying.
I think the real criticism, Mike, is not like the activity itself, but the disclosure. Like, the people are upset that
the vellum is on an overlay.
just that when you sell the piece, that it's disclosed, that you say like, that it's been altered.
This piece is on vellum added to the cover or whatever.
Right.
That has to be disclosed. Disclosure.
It's and I some things like that I'd hesitate to call them alterations in every circumstance. Yes, there is some alteration from how it was originally done, but I think a lot of collectors may be surprised. There are a number of pieces where something minor like that, like Mike said, an element that was done on another sheet and somebody, glued it down. The logo was not put on the cover. It was on an overlay. Somebody took it off the overlay, put it on the cover. They're not altering it. There's no new artwork added. There's nothing subtracted. It should be disclosed. It probably may bother some people. But I mean, in the fine art market, there's much more alterations done and nobody even blinks an eye. But I know where there was some discussion, and just to put this to bed with the All-Star Squadron cover, where some people were commenting that they thought it was worth just a fraction of what it was priced at, which I think is completely ridiculous. I mean, you know, someone said $800. I mean, come on. It's a Joe Kubert cover, and you know, it wasn't like the main characters were changed or altered or whatever. I would just put it back to collectors that, and I'm speaking as a collector and a dealer. That's, you know, just to be very clear with everyone. I would just put it back to collectors that be careful how stringent you hold dealers to, which we should be held to a stringent, you know, accord. I mean, we're, you know, we're the so-called experts. We should disclose these things. We should know these things, of course. But there's a lot of collectors that pass off pieces in trade or sale, and maybe they don't know that something was done to the piece. But I seldom hear disclosures, you know. So I'm just saying you can't hold one side to one standard and relax it on the other side. And again, I'm speaking from both sides. So I don't know.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, finish.
Speaking about fakes, Mike, weren't like, I remember a few San Diegos ago, you were offered a Avengers page. It was like
Jack Kirby?
Yeah, Jack Kirby Avengers page. Maybe it was
it was more like a Jake.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It was an Avengers 2 page, and you know what? I was so close to buying it, and out of the blue, thank God Jim D'Amico was with me, and I just turned it over, and I go, oh my God. Honestly, from the front, I wasn't sure. Then he turned it over, and it was like solid white, and I realized somebody recreated it.
Mike, you called me over. I was on my way to a bathroom break, and you stopped.
Oh, you were at San Diego?
Yeah, that year. You said, look at this Avengers page. And I was like, I looked at it, and I said, it's not an Avengers page. I mean, what, you know?
Yeah, no, we all said it was fake. That was definitely a fake. And there have been like a few splashes. I remember like an X-Men splash, not like Burn, like a later one that was that was a fake.
Well, there was one on eBay that I purchased. I mean, you couldn't back then in the late 90s. I mean, you couldn't. The pictures were terrible. You know, I got the thing in. As soon as I opened it, I said, holy crap, this is, I mean, I don't know if it was an intended fake or a fan recreation or even a recreation, but I mean, I just put on the back, not original. And I think I don't know if I destroyed it or I might have sold it to somebody, but I definitely disclosed that it was not original. I couldn't get my money back from whoever I bought it from on eBay, but it was, I'm just saying from my experience, you know, most of the fakes, almost all the fakes are pretty obvious.
Well, I'm just going to jump in just for a quick second to go back to Brad Savage just to tie this up. Brad, for about 30 years, has been telling a few of us, starting with like me and Steve Fischler of Metropolis and some people from way back. So Bashara, I have the Captain America #1 cover.
I've heard that one for years.
Bashara, I've got the Brad. You're gonna show it to me, right? Next year, Bashara, I will show it to you. Okay. 1 year comes around. Brad, I've got to see the Captain. Bashara, I swear to you, 2 more years from now, Brad. You know, I remember Fischler offering him Brad like a mint Avengers 4 because Brad loved Avengers 4 and FF1. He goes, I'll give you a mint Avengers 4 if you just show me the Captain America 1 cover. So, of course, to this day, he still tells me. So we suspect, because there was a guy in Connecticut years back that had a few fakes like this. And we suspect that one time Brad bought the Captain America 1 cover and he's just too scared to show it off that someday that is just going to collapse and go, no. So there's a few pics out there that have passed through a few hands.
Mikey spent the night at Brad's house. So, I mean, you didn't see it there when you spent the night, right?
You spent the night at Brad's house.
I'm not going to.
You're still alive? Oh my God!
Yeah, it was well. He owed me money, and he said, "Come over, and I'll show you some art." Yeah, it was a night that I choose not to remember.
I made the mistake of bringing my wife to Brad's house,
and I like Brad. If Brad,
we all like Brad. Brad's great.
I like Brad,
but yeah, it's just not conducive to guests. I'll just say that.
Alive or dead. I'll
Yeah.
So there,
chicken bones in the fireplace. So I'm sorry.
Oh, I saw
It's
worse.
just-
I saw
it's
worse
not like
than that
that.
in the fireplace.
there is
Yeah.
a 0.2 chance that Captain America cover is real. Like
Yeah.
like there's like a minuscule chance.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing, talking about fake, when could something be a fake and not be a fake, but still be a fake? Mike Diodato. There's been times and I hate to use this name, but Mike Diodato has recreated some of his covers and passed them off as the originals. There was a time when me and Albert Moy both had the same exact Electra cover in our inventory at San Diego.
Oh my God.
And, we found out that just the rumor was that he was recreating covers and selling them off as the originals.
I've seen some of his recreations. They look really good, but how can
they're
you?
good, but I think he sold somebody would never say recreation or anything. And me and Albert at one point had the same cover and Electra cover, and both thought they were originals. Hold on, I'm stepping out for a second.
Well, the problem with that is today's blue lines on
You guys
one,
want anything?
Pennsylvania.
Whatever you want. I can just run over.
What's how much? Vishar, how much is that piece right behind you?
It's a fake. Don't tell anybody. All
So
right.
I can tell you a story, but I won't tell you who I sold it to. But I did a deal with someone, and one of the covers that I sold to them was a Frank Whiteley new X-Men cover, and if that wasn't inked, it was just pencil. And you've seen his work's really just fine line pencil. He doesn't do any shading or anything, and so it was part of the deal. And about 3 months later, the piece shows up on that dealer site for sale, and all the blacks were filled in with pencil. And so someone had gone and it had a stat on it now too. So which it wasn't on it there when I had sold
Please
it.
don't tell me it was a dealer's site from California.
Could be. Could be. But so that kind of stuff happens all the time, and it doesn't, and you would never know it if you weren't the, and I was the original owner of it too. So had I not seen that, what are you going to do? I'm sure you guys have seen similar things as well.
I would be careful saying all the time. I mean, I got to push back that, again, fakes and alterations that are more than minor restoration, I have not encountered a ton of. I will say that, what Mike referenced with the Diodato situation, there was another artist that I'm not sure if it was him or his inker. There was a certain Amazing Spider-Man cover that was sold as an original, but it turned out to be some sort of recreation. I don't really want to.
You can't even say the issue or
All
anything?
right, well, it was a 350. It's 350.
Oh, funny. I've heard that as well about the 350.
Yeah.
And
I mean, when it happened back in the day, the price between commissioning one of these guys and the actual original was almost negligible.
Wait, you're talking about the Amazing Spider-Man 350?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I bought that years ago, and I bought it from a collector, and he sold me that, I think for like $2,000 or something like that. So I got it. I got it in. I matched it up to the cover, and the lines didn't exactly match up. I mean, it looked like the inks were professional. Like Randy Emberlin had inked it, and he had signed it like next to his signature. It said there was like the number 3, and I was like, that's not on the actual printed on the actual cover, but it did line up exactly with the trade paperback cover. So he had done a light box for the trade paperback for Marvel, and they'd paid him, and it was on the same Marvel stock, and it looked exactly like the 350. But I realized this, and I think I talked to you about it, Will. But I sent it back to the guy. I was like, this is not the actual 350 cover. And in exchange, he sent me the Begley cover to issue Spider-Man 4. I think it's 402 with Spider-Man versus Carnage. He's like trapped in a chair, so he exchanged it, but he took it back, and that I don't know whether or not the 350 actually exists, because it may have like burned up in Eric Larson's fire, where a lot of stuff was lost. But
that's what we were speculating. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That we thought it was a recreate. Yeah, it did turn out to be the trade paperback, but I think we did find that out years later.
Right.
But we just knew that something was not kosher with it. There's something that was off.
Right.
But yet, it was definitely one or both the guys that originally worked on the cover. So.
Right. It was definitely Randy
Emberlin
had inked it. There's no question about that. But I asked Eric Larson whether or not he had done that cover, and he said no. He told me no.
Okay, so then it was all Emberlin. Okay.
Believe it or not, I have a situation very similar to that right now. I mean, not many people know about, but John Romita did these covers for Italy when they reprinted all the Spidey strips. Remember those covers they did for Italy?
Yeah, sure.
The very first one is Spider-Man and Doctor Doom. Oddly enough, like your 350 cover. But anyway, I showed this to a guy in Italy has the published cover. I got a cover, and it came from Mitch through John Romita. I have another cover. His cover looks exactly like the cover. Mine is slightly different. Signed by John. And I go, John, did you get this? I'm sorry, I'm asking Mitch. Mitch goes, 100% that came from John Romita's office. So they are virtually identical, and yet there's two covers to this. And I keep asking John, and John can't remember why. But Mitch goes, I got that because I got it from a friend of Mitch's. And I said, Mitch, I don't think this is the original. He goes, I got that directly from John Romita. So I should have brought it out. Next episode or something, I'll bring it out to show. And I compared mine because there's webs everywhere. And the guy in Italy showed me, and his is the one on the cover. Mine is slightly different. And it's John. He goes, and the guy I even have the prelim and the cover. And Mitch Shikowitz, I sold those to the guy you got it from, and I got those directly from John. So one of the later episodes, I'll bring it out to show because there's technically two covers that are almost identical by John. But
the
John
other cover, Mike, did John say he did the other cover?
What's that?
Did Romita say that he did the other cover that the guy in Italy owns?
But I go, why would you do? John is such a perfectionist. The Art of John Romita. There's a comic book, The Art of John Romita. I actually have three. They're almost identical. I have three basically finished covers of the same cover of his Art of John Romita book. Some of them he did different shading. Some have extra penciling. Some have ink. Some he colored. But I have like three versions of the Art of John Romita cover that he had done too.
Oh, I just noticed that there's people posting.
Yeah.
Can I actually respond to somebody?
Yeah. Which one?
I was gonna throw the volleyball question at you.
Oh, right.
Is that the one you want?
I just noticed it. I'm like, yeah. It's by Ben Bressel, who I know very well. I didn't at one time, and he's asking, Bashara, can you tell the story of
It's on the front now.
what you brought to volleyball? There we go. Yeah, I can tell the story. Ben used to still plays, and I used to play volleyball. It was a pretty high level at an armory in Newton, Massachusetts. We'd go there. It was after college. He's a lot younger than me, and I was playing, and I was older. Loving volleyball, and I got to know Ben, and he said he's like into comics and artwork, and I'm like, oh, really? All right. So then the next week I come to volleyball, and on the stage I leave a few items on there. We're playing, and then we have a little break, and I said, hey, I brought you something to see because I know you love this stuff. He goes, oh, all right, show me. I have this comic that is kind of cool. Figured you'd like to see it, and then he goes, wow, that's really nice. Superman. Oh, that's pretty. It's like that's Mile High. Superman 1 Mile High. I'm like, oh, what are you bringing it here for? I said, I thought you'd like to see it. He's like, put that away. What else did you bring me? Oh, I have the FF72 cover. I thought you'd like to see. I pull it out of the bag. I'm like, he's like, are you crazy? What are you doing bringing FF72 cover to volleyball on the Mile High Super 1, carrying it around? I'm like, nobody knows. I thought you'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't get to share this stuff. This is like 20 years ago.
How far away from home was that?
It's like 40 minutes from my house.
Oh, okay.
Well, just full disclosure, Bashar travels with the FF-72 cover in his trunk.
Wherever he goes.
Because, I met him to do a deal a few years ago up in Providence, right? Which is like an hour south of him, about 5 hours north from me.
Right.
But we met in Providence, and when we were done, we did a deal over lunch. We had a nice lunch, did a deal, pretty large deal. I think we had to finish it in the lobby or something. But anyway, he's like, "Oh, walk me to my car. Let me show you something." And here pops out the FF-72 cover in a nice gold leaf frame, and then the Spidey Six Splash, or Ditko Spidey Six Splash. Next to the tire iron, mind you. So
Sure, you never come to my house with the FF-72. I'm very upset.
No. You have to go to Providence, Rhode Island.
Anywhere within an hour.
He only goes within like a 2-hour radius of his home.
Yeah. That's the only way I can get to show my stuff off. Or I have to run a show in LA and bring some of my collection like I do. Here, look.
I think
things.
I think something else interesting, Bashar, is you should, as you've often treated some of us to when you travel to different cities, you like to introduce restaurants to some of your friends and associates.
True. That is my calling in life now.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
The
Just
restaurant?
a little bit.
The restaurants?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just an overview.
Listen. Well, first, before I do that, let me explain why I'm here. Why am I at Burkey?
I said, well, Ohio is the mecca for comic art.
So
Obviously,
far.
we got the amazing Bill Cox.
Because I don't think you've ever been to Burkey's, right?
I reminded him like 25 years ago in his little house. Now it's expanded like 20 times bigger.
2 houses ago.
And you know what he tells me a little while ago? He goes, "Sure, why do you want to live in Boston area? You should be living down here. Come on down." I'm like,
I said, you don't have to worry about the hurricanes. You don't have to worry about the higher cost of living.
Sure.
You get more bang for your buck with comic art.
So the reason I'm here is I have an addiction to traveling and great restaurants. So my wife said to me, "You can't travel anywhere." I've already canceled like 8 flights over the last few months for vacation with family, which I love being with family and friends, and for shows. So she came up with the idea of let's rent an RV, which I've been resisting for the last 15 years. But she had me over a barrel. If I want to travel, she said, that's it. The only way we're going to travel this year out of our house is get in a car with the kids with a big RV, sleep in there, and travel to the Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore and all over the country. So our first stop from Pennsylvania, where the in-laws were, is I called Burkey. I said, "Is this KOA far from you?" He goes, "It's 10 minutes away from my house. Come on down." So it just happens. The timing of it is such that I'm 10 minutes away. I had no option but to come here. He said, "Well, by the way, we're having this little thing. You have to be on it if you want to see my stuff." I'm like
So the important question is where in the RV is the FF-72?
You're right. It is in the RV. No,
I hope you have a really big padlock on the RV.
Yes, there's a nice G Clay in the bathroom of the 72 cover.
No, I have the phone number of the general manager of the KOA, and I'm calling him on the other line.
Knock. Yeah. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So that's.
Well, you got to elaborate on the restaurants, though.
Oh yes, you took me to a great sushi place in New York City, like the best sushi place I've ever been to, and that's coming from a guy who lives in LA and gets the greatest sushi. And Leonardo DiCaprio was at the sushi bar when with his girlfriend when we went there.
This place is called Sushi Yasuda, and it only has like 12 seats on the sushi bar. And you're supposed to sit at the sushi bar if you can, because they only, it's like 1 piece at a time or 2 pieces, and it's like world famous.
Oh, good.
So I take people different restaurants around the country, and DiCaprio was sitting there with his new girlfriend that happened to be 25 years old and a model. And matter of fact, they weren't getting along, so I took a picture.
Yeah, they looked really unhappy. They were like eating the best food in the world and miserable.
But they were miserable.
Oh, God.
They're like, "Oh my God, do I go and say something?" No, you can't.
Wow.
But he was just a few seats away from us. But I did get-
Bashar was on a business trip. I think you were returning from Delaware or Maryland or somewhere there. So he stopped in my area, which is outside of Philadelphia. He's like, "Oh, I'm not going to drive home all the way." He goes, "Instead of staying near New York, I'll stay near you. We'll grab dinner." So I think I took you to a chain restaurant, and you were like, you're like, isn't there anything local? It was where you were staying. It was one of the. But the next time you came in the area, I made sure to take you to a local Italian seafood. It's actually our buddy Nick's uncle owns it, and I think you liked it much better.
You kept on trying to convince me your bowling alley had the greatest food.
Oh yeah,
alley that. But I'm sure actually you did take me there, and it was good food. But for the
that wasn't that store. But yeah, no, I did take you to a bowling alley. I said you gotta try these crab cakes at the bowling alley, and you're like, bowling alley, and I mean honestly, they're fantastic crab cakes.
Real quick, I have a funny New York sushi story. I'm at a New York Comic-Con one year. I actually meet this girl online from New York City. I go, "Hey, I'm setting up at the New York Comic-Con. We'll go out to dinner one night." So she goes, "The first date, right?" This girl is like 5'3", 90 pounds. We go to a sushi place. Okay, I got a taxi, go there. All I know there, and she gets like about 3 drinks or something. The bill was $700, and I left there hungry. And I'm thinking like, it's the first time I saw it a day. But and I'm going like, I'm thinking like, what the hell? I go, how in the hell? And I'm looking.
Don't stick your head in it.
And dude, I got like a Diet Coke or something. And I'm going like, I left there hungry, and the bill was $700, and I gave him like a $150 tip. I'm going like, thank God I brought enough money, because I'd have been embarrassed. Here I was just thinking like, oh, I figure if I have $300 in my pocket, I should be safe. Thank God I brought more. But that was my sushi story in New York City.
Yes.
Come get the crab cakes, Mike. So just to tie this up, so we've established that Bashar has a great palate, great taste in restaurants, but there was one time a few years ago, if you'll, I think you have to allow this, Bill. I caught him. If you can put this on.
Uh-oh.
I caught Bashar at Chick-fil-A.
What the hell? That was my first Chick-fil-A experience.
And he enjoyed it.
Picture.
Is there a piece of art in the background? Oh, that's at a table at the show. That's Comic Art Con.
That is at a con.
That's Comic Art Con.
Oh my God.
That is so funny. I go, what's all that art doing? I thought you were at Chick-fil-A.
I had to take it because I said we'll never get Bashar at a fast food restaurant. Get a picture of it.
No, Mike. Yeah.
You look pretty happy there.
A Chick-fil-A.
No, he was more surprised and embarrassed. Like, it's not me. I'm not eating here.
No, a Chick-fil-A moved in to a town near us, and my kids are like, "This is the best fast food. Dad, get in that line," which usually takes me about an hour in that line to get them food every once in a while. Wow. So I thought I taught you better than that, kids, but no, it's actually pretty good. I've got to admit, Chick-fil-A for fast food is quality.
So, hey, Bashar, so when did you actually start selling art at shows? Because like I remember Glenn's, when he was telling his, kind of origin story for collecting, you were the dealer, one of the dealers that he first met. So you were, yeah, and you were only selling art at that point. So how did you
Bill, I actually met Bashar earlier than that. Like actually before I started selling art. Before I started buying art, a couple of years earlier, I was in New York City visiting my mom, and I happened to notice like on the weekend there was like this like small sort of like comic show, and I was like, oh, I love comics. I'd like to go to that thing. I think it was like maybe like 1992 or something like that, maybe 93. And I hadn't even like really started recollecting, buying those Comic America timelies that I was buying yet. But so I go to this show, and a dealer has a Captain America 78 on the wall, and I always love that cover. In fact, I have a recreation behind me. But anyway, it was actually Bashara that was like behind the table, and I was like, oh, how much is that Captain America 78? And you were like, it's $300, but today I'm willing to go down, and this is my bottom line. I'm willing to go down to 275, and that's a really great deal. And you start showing me the comic, and it's a VG copy, and telling me about seven of the previous owners, I think. And then I was like, well, look, how about like 250? And you were like, no, 250. No, you don't understand about this comic book. And you went back into a whole thing about the history and how hard these are and how in demand they are. And I was like, okay, 275, I'll take it. But I'll tell you what, I went back to LA, and I was working a really tough job. And I had that comic book on the plane, and it made me so happy. I was like, I had it with me, and I was like, it was the best $275 that I ever spent. But that was actually the first time that I didn't know who Bashar was then, but I remembered him when I met him, and we did our first deal for comic art later on, a couple of years later.
Is 78 considered one of the low distribution copies?
I don't know. Well, Bashar knows all about it. He can tell you.
Oh, Bashar, that's right. What am I thinking? Tell us.
It is the last few issues of Captain America.
When they brought in the 76, 77,
76,
78?
77,
With low
78
distribution?
low distribution books are the last ones.
Those are ones that Ramita did.
Very tough.
Yeah,
Ramita, Everett, and Human Torch, Fergos.
But Bill, when you were asking about when I started, the problem with me is, just like a lot of collectors, you start having an addictive personality to things. You need an addictive personality to promote this collectible and to propagate it and to grow it. It's people like myself. So as soon as I pretty much tasted original art, I went nuts. I was asking everybody for comic art because I didn't know what I was going to keep. I needed to buy some, put them at home, look at them, and then figure out, I'll never part with this, or I'll put this in my collection. And this, all right, I'm going to have to sell it because I never had enough money to get more art and comics. So I would have to sell stuff to buy more. So I immediately, within a year or two of starting to buy the art wherever I could find it in the 80s, I started dealing some really only to collect. So even when I was selling the comics, I was selling the comics to keep the ones I wanted, but it became such a all right, sell to buy, sell, buy. So that's how it grew. I never really wanted to be a comic art dealer, but it was the best way to be a comic art collector. And I never knew that it would grow this large. I thought I was going to venture into another vocation, but the allure of collecting just kept me here, and then it was profitable also. So I can't complain there. So
I don't think any of us ever planned to be a dealer. I didn't. My tax man told me I better, or else I'm gonna get in trouble with Uncle Sam. I just wanted to wheel and deal and keep trading and selling to get more Spider-Man, and that's just how it happened. The same way,
No, when I saw, Bashar was one of the people I encountered early. When I saw what you were doing at shows, I was collecting at that point pretty early on, but I was like, man, if there's some way I can do. I think I was selling real estate at the time, which like my heart wasn't into. At least selling for other people, investing, okay, but when I saw like, wow, not only collect this stuff, but even if it's stuff you're not going to keep or you don't love, you appreciate it, you like it. It's nice to have it in your hands and put it into someone else's hands that really appreciates it even more. So I mean, pretty early on, that was my wish, you know, and I guess wishes sometimes come true.
Yeah. But everybody always assumed you have money. You know, we all had finite amounts of money. I always tell people, you know, I used to collect everything. Then I said, nope, I got to cone it to Marvel because I don't have enough money. Then I used to collect Punisher, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. I said, oh, I don't have enough money. Punisher and Wolverine go. So I said, I'm just collecting Spider-Man. Oh, I don't have enough money. All the Ditko has to go. Up. I still need more money. Up. Everything McFarlane later has to go. Oh, I don't have money. Okay, everything non-Amazing Spider-Man, all my Spectacular, Web, that has to go. Then it finally just said, okay, Amazing Spider-Man 39 to 297. I found my niche. Now you just got to stick with it. That way, if I have money, I save up just for that stuff. So, you know, we all have our niches. That's how it happened for me.
And it's such a small niche for you, Mike. It's such a small.
It's a tiny little niche, just ASM.
I remember when you sold your Ditko stuff, though.
Yeah, and then of course, then I got into Hulk covers in 2002. After 2002, and then so I got into the Hulk stuff too. So.
But I'll say this again. I remember saying this on another show, and I've said this many times. It shows in the private conversations. Some of the biggest collectors are dealers, and you know, I've known you, Bashar, for I mean more than 25 years, definitely 25, but plus. And you know, as much as I know some things in your collection, there's still quite a mystery of things I don't know what's in your collection. Partly because maybe it's stuff I'm not interested in, partly because it's stuff you're gonna pull out on me 5 years from now, and you know you're gonna have me. So
listen,
and you like surprising us. So.
I do. It's fun. Listen, I can't keep everything. I try to keep as much as I can, and then but each year I add to the collection. And the problem is, you know, these pieces are getting more and more expensive. You know, I just pulled the trigger on a 6-figure piece. Oh my God! But then it goes in that black hole. And like, I have to pay for that piece. I have to sell other things. That's why, you know, I get motivated, sell stuff to buy more stuff. But then, you know, it's a never ending. At some point, you know, it has to slow down and go, all right, you have to pare it down someday. But I'm trying to get there. But it brings me joy, though. You know, it's, you know, love
Absolutely. I think we need to take some of these questions. We're neglecting a couple. Can everyone share what they did or do as their day jobs? Anyone doing this full time at this point? I've been doing this full time for years.
Yeah, I'm doing this full time now for the past basically 4 or 5 years. Before that, I was I wrote screenplays in Hollywood, and I also wrote a bunch of comics. I did one with John Romita Jr. and one with Will Portacio for Image Comics. But yeah, this is really taken off for me, and it's my full-time gig.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this full time for many years. I also had a adult toy company at one point.
What?
What? I also had some investment properties. I used to sell real estate.
That's what it means. Large Migos.
Oversized Migos.
Oversized Migos.
Full size. And I long ago I worked at FedEx, but yeah, I've been doing, I mean, full-time art dealer for well over 20 years.
Yeah, I was a poor schlep. I couldn't afford to go to college, so I joined the Army. I was in the Army from 1985 to 89. Bought my first piece of art the day I got out of the Army in October of 1989. And then I was an X-ray tech in a children's hospital. Then I got accepted to a school at the Cleveland Clinic. Went to school at the Cleveland Clinic for 2 years, and I was a radiation therapist working with little kids with cancer for 23 years. And I retired from that in 2013, and I've been doing this full-time ever since. So
you were doing it full-time before then. That other job was out of the kindness of you. You were volunteering there, and they just happened to give you benefits.
I can't tell you. I'm almost ashamed to say all the art. I said, when we get Frank Giello on next week, I can't tell you how many times I'd be on the phone with Frank Giello till like 2 a.m. in the morning doing an art deal. Then I had to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning for work. And I can't tell you the sleepless nights. I used to pop the no-dose so I wouldn't fall asleep at work all the time back in the pre-internet days. So I know that.
I think someone else's turn. You guys want to tell us what you do?
Yeah, Bashar.
Yeah, you go, Bashar.
I heard you're a diamond.
dealer.
Somebody told me.
I was a vagabond.
Oh, I heard you were a diamond
I'm
dealer.
still diamond dealer. No, I used to. That was for my my stepfather's company. I used to cut diamonds while I was in college.
Wow,
That's
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no,
Sounds interesting.
it was interesting, but no, I wanted to run the company, and
Yeah.
you know, my stepfather was from the old
Oh.
school, the old country. You know, you have to work for 25 years before you
Get a
can
promotion.
before you can make more than like $1 an hour type of. I'm not kidding either. It's pretty funny, and I'm just like
You are in charge. You are in charge of this broom.
I'm not like that. I get very distracted quickly. So sitting there cutting diamonds, you know, on the diamond wheel, it wasn't for me.
No,
But
I'm with you.
no, it was you know, schooling. I was going to go to advanced schooling, and I took a year off because of when I started doing shows. I'm like, wow, I can go to a comic book show and make all this money
More
and
than
buy
working-
stuff for my collection. I'm like, let me see what I can do. After 1 year, I'm like, wow, maybe this is my calling after all. Collector, dealer. I like that. So I never have to look back. So thank goodness.
I think we all can say we love the hobby and it's done well for us. All because we were collectors. I always tell people, the people that strictly were 100% dealer only, you know, they didn't do so well compared to people that actually did collect. Because if you collect and love it, I think you have more passion for it.
Yeah, no, we all love art. I mean, I've talked to each and every one of you about, you know, about different aspects of the hobby, different pieces of art that we love for different reasons. And I mean, you know, the passion just shows through. I mean, we love this stuff. We love being around it, and you know, admiring it and buying it and selling it and trading it, and it's a fun thing to do. It's a good living.
And I like it. It certainly makes, I know a lot of the old timers, like guys like John Romita, you have no idea how giddy he is, even though he doesn't own it anymore. When he says, "Oh my God, a piece of my art sold for $100,000. Are you kidding me?" And he laughs his head off and everything. You know, I always get a kick out.
And when it's your piece of art, Mike, you're giddy too.
Yeah, not just all the covers, which you have, Bill, Glenn. You have all the covers. I was foolish and just kept the interiors, which is still okay. But they're all good.
You got
Quantity over quality.
I always bring back just the greatest story John Romita ever told me. It's a real quick one. John's in the bullpen, John Romita, John Buscema, and Jack Kirby. And they're all drawing, they're all doing their own stuff in their meeting. I mean, they had their own offices, but occasionally they got together and would have chats. And Buscema says how, or John Romita says how Jack Kirby says, you know, one day our drawings are going to be in museums. And John Romita looks at John Buscema, and they all look at each other and go, Jack is crazy. And then John Romita says, and he tells me now, he goes, Jack was right and we were wrong.
As the way it should be.
Jack is always right.
Yeah. Trust me, Jack Kirby was way ahead of his time. It's a shame he didn't live longer to see the true fruits of his labor, you know. But
yeah, that's true. I wonder what he would have thought of the. I'm sure he would have loved the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder.
Oh, I think he would have loved the Avengers movies. Oh, without question.
Yeah. I think he would have been really proud.
I think so. So
what's what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on show prospects for coming, you know, later in the year?
Well, I hear Torpedo is going forward. I just got a couple of emails. They're saying that they postponed the show here in LA 2 weeks, and it's gonna be July 31st to August 2nd. And they say that it's going to be at the LA Palladium, and that they're only going to be allowing 500 people per day in. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but and then they said if LA decides that they can't do it there, that they have a backup plan in Orange County. There's like a place in Orange County that they're going to do it. So I guess, I mean, my hunch is if it really goes on, I'll go take a look and see, see if people like really show up to that thing or not. I don't know. I mean, I probably just, I'll put a mask on and I'll go for a half an hour and take a
My
look.
question is, do people feel that New York is going to happen in October? That's a big question.
No,
They
that's
want
not-
my money for
I can't
booths.
see it.
They insist the show's going to happen, and I just don't see it.
No, the reality.
October, first week of October, New York City, Javits.
Listen, the
Have
reality.
they made it into a hospital for a little while for COVID?
Yeah,
Have they put it back? I mean, I don't even know.
I'm just saying they've been aching me. They've been telling me I have to pay my money, and they said the show is gonna happen.
Wow.
And I just find that hard to believe.
Listen, the reality is there's not going to be a single show for comics.
Yeah, you tell me when 200,000 people under one roof is going to happen.
Not 200,000. Even
No, not a show like that. But I mean,
even 500 or 1,000. The odds are very, very, very.
I'm saying New York Comic Con.
Unlikely. No, we know New York is not going to happen.
no, it's more likely that the small shows, the art shows that we do.
So what about very
Comic
small show? 50 to 100 people, maybe. That's
Right.
that's really probably the limit of something
So
happening.
Comic Art Con in
New Jersey, maybe.
and possibly the LA Art Show, your show, possibly.
Maybe. Yeah, and even those, even though I run that show, I'm suspect that it may not happen.
Let's do it outside in the parking lot.
It might. I mean, we'll
Or behind Anthony's shop.
So if we do, there'll be temperature checks and everything and social distancing, and you got to figure it out. But the reality is, it's going to be a very difficult 1 year of
Plus,
shows.
you know,
it's going to be tough.
A lot of our doctor guys, our good friend Steve Ferzocco, works in Boston Hospital, and he truly believes there's going to be a second wave in the fall, and he said it's going to be worse than the first. A lot of medical people feel this. So, boy, oh boy, I mean, we love this stuff, but we certainly want to live long enough to be able to enjoy it into our older ages.
Yeah. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
not shows. So I hope, but we'll see. We'll just modify our behavior until a vaccine, and then we'll hopefully go back to normal next year. Hopefully.
Agree.
Oh, I think it will by next year.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the largest shows. That's what to me is the biggest
So
question.
you have a vaccine, though, it's always going to be around. That's what I always say.
I think by the spring, unless that second wave is like really cresting, certainly Comic Art Con and I think Bashar, you're talking about adding a second or third date to your show, maybe
Where?
in earlier in the spring. Weren't you talking about moving your show at some point to a
The LA.
yeah?
The LA. Well,
I don't mean location. I mean date. Weren't you talking about adding?
We're going to try to do the first week of November. So, but that's going to be like 50 to 70 people. That might happen, and then I'll do it again in May. So, and eventually one in San Fran.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was going to do the San Fran this February, but not after the virus hit. So
That's what I'm confused. Yeah, San Fran. Okay. I knew there was something in February you were talking about.
yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. So I know I miss shows. It's I love.
Probably more than the rest of us.
Probably, yeah. So that's why I was really a show dealer. That's all I wanted to do. I'm like, just sell this much art at shows. That was enough for me.
I think we had to tell you it was the internet, not the intranet. Intranet.
Intranet. What the hell is that,
I
man?
think Bush Jr.
Email. What email, huh?
You old young pups. What are you talking about? Yeah. Now what am I going to? Yeah. Now, thank goodness I actually am doing it. Yeah.
Well, it looks like we'll probably have the next Comic Art Live. It's overwhelmingly most people want it every 6 months. It's either that or 4, and then 3 months was like kind of the least favorite. Yeah, the one that I did. So that would mean either September or November. But I think realistically, the best thing for me to do would be to do it in November, just because of what my schedule looks like, and some of the thoughts and things that are also in there are going to require us to do a little bit more work for the next one, or at least as much as I did for the first one. So I don't foresee doing it until November, probably not the end of the month, since that would interfere with Thanksgiving. So I'll probably it probably won't be a strict 6 months. It'll probably be earlier in November. But I haven't
check
set any
check
dates.
with Bashara, because if that show
Yep.
happens, you don't want to do it the same weekend as
Exactly. No, well, I haven't looked at because I figure I got to look at Heritage's schedule and
They
Comic
usually
Book's
have theirs
schedule.
at the end of
At
November.
the end of November.
Okay.
But I might do it in the last week of October, so we could always work that out.
Yeah, we'll definitely work it out. No, I would never do it on any weekend that would compete with anybody I work with. So that's why I haven't picked a date. I haven't taken the time to look.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but every time I talk to you guys, I want to be an art dealer one day. It's just you guys lead the glamorous life. I just sit behind a keyboard all day. I know you do too, but you're dealing art and look at
Bill, you just have to go get your pile from Berkey. It's waiting for you. You just have to get your pile, and then you can.
I got your green Post-its here, Bill, right over here.
I know. I took a few pieces home the last time.
Oh.
Want to show them off? Do you have them handy?
Yeah, they're.
Show them off. Show off a couple of your goodies.
My only one I have near me was a Paulo Rivera piece, like a fastball special with Wolverine and Colossus. So I always like Paulo. He did the.
Can you show that again? It sort of looks like Colossus humping him.
Yeah, I figured you would say that. That's because you're used to the. Well, I'm not even going on there.
No, hey, it's a beautiful piece. It's fine if they're riding back. Whatever, it's all good.
Yeah.
They're close team members. It's all good.
You used to collect Wolverine too, so.
Yeah, I know. You know,
Mike, you're making Bashara nervous over there. Okay.
Somebody text me soon.
home in one piece.
I do not see 6 feet between you two.
So I have another question. Did Mike, Bashar, did you guys already work out some deal, or once the cameras go off, you're gonna start working out something?
Nah, he's too tough to deal with.
He's so scared. Like, you can't buy those.
I tell him
Everything is $10,000.
I told him I go, there's no deals to be had here. If you want it, you pay the price. There's no deals.
You won't even give me a price.
I said, this is vacation. I don't want any stress.
See, folks, this is what happens. This is what happens when two dealers get together. It's not the cabal. It's finger pointing.
Yeah.
No, it's you. Your prices. You didn't give me a price.
Bashara, you have to make a large pile. If you make a large pile, he'll give you a discount.
He already asked for a piece of paper and a pen to write stuff down. I go, oh no, not again.
Yeah. It could be dangerous in a little while. So.
It's all good.
Well, thanks, guys. It was a good time.
Yeah. So
Better
we're
than I
done.
expected.
Thanks for being our special guest.
And we'll have the amazing Frank
Anything.
Giella. Tell everybody we're having amazing Frank Giella next Tuesday, Bill.
Who's
That's
Frank?
right.
Frank Giella.
Frank, what?
Frank Giella, you ever heard of him?
Thanks,
Dad
Yella.
was an artist. What? DC, believe it or not.
DC?
People don't know his dad actually did a lot of Marvel stuff uncredited. But Frank will tell all that next
I'm
week.
sure he will. Yeah.
All right. Well,
So, all right,
yeah.
guys.
Thanks, Bashar. It was great talking with you tonight.
Thank you for
And
having me.
everybody.
Thanks for being a good sport, Bashara.
All right, no problem.
Have a good
All right.
week, everybody. See you next week.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.